Hi, Karley. Friday, June 23rd, 2023 edition of the Able Marketing Facebook Live. This is Karley Cunningham from Big Bold Brand. And Karley, we're just chatting about how we should start our questions. So why don't we start talking about how we met? And that is at your Casual Fridays networking event in North Vancouver last December.
It was December. Holy cow, has it been that long? I think, the
so,
unmentionable thing of 3 years broke all the calendars in our heads.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. So let's get started then. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that because we did discuss that prior. And I sent that to you as a question. We met at Casual Friday. And it's a North Van networking event for business leaders. How long have you been running the event and why did you start it?
So it started pre the unmentionable event of the globe, pre-pandemic. It really, it had been an idea for so many years to bring people together. I know that for me, the community or network ecosystem, however you want to refer to it, that surrounds my business, to me, it's like scaffolding. It is the thing that holds my business up. It is the thing that supports our clients as well. And, in that same metaphor of scaffolding, the people that are that scaffolding can help you reach for that next level and that next stage. And bringing people together might sound a little odd. One of my top values is intimacy. But really what that means is being in the same physical space as people. Is really, really important to me. And I think for creating deeper connections and building relationships, it's key and critical. And I know that so many of us, having been through the pandemic experience, realized what it's like to have that taken away and to crave it. And so an idea for many, many years. And then I happened to be sitting down with my former co-host a few years ago after I moved to the North Shore. We were getting together on a Friday for a beer. He goes, I would love to do more of this. I said, I've always had this idea. I want to hold a casual networking event. There seems no better place to do it than the North Shore, where we tend to be a little more laid back, a little more casual. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so initially we hosted it at Brown's in Lynn Valley, which was a fantastic venue. If anybody needs to host an event there, I highly recommend them. They have a great team. And we just started inviting the people around us, our strategic partners, our clients, business owners from the shore. And selfishly, a lot of us, and myself, were tired of driving over the bridges to get downtown at the worst time of day to cross the bridges for a networking event. So I thought, well, if folks, we're not a big business community per se. We don't have a lot of office buildings. We don't have a lot of industry space. But for those that are coming back from the downtown, the valley, the areas that do have those, they're heading home. So why not swing by for a drink on a Friday afternoon and meet some great folks?
Yeah, that's a great point. The funny thing is, I don't know if you know this, I think you do. I met Scott Wilson, who then referred me to your networking group, North Shore. And so I went to a networking group that I joined during the pandemic. I've had Marshall Stern as a guest on my show before. He runs a sign and graphics business. He's been a coach for 9 years. I've done coaching with Marshall. And so Marshall and I obviously met online, and we have a Wednesday at 11 o'clock networking thing online called Connect and Collaborate. And then Scott's like, you should come to this one in North Van with Karley because it's so easy for you where you live. And I'm like, so here we are 6 months later. And so I was actually just flashing up, and I don't know if you're aware with the software I use, I can share screen while running. So I was just featuring a little bit on your website, and I'm going to drop it in the public chat here so people can have a look when they see the Facebook Live posted about Big Bold Brand, because I think it's important to
thanks for that,
to highlight what's happening there with your business. Because as we mentioned off the air, we talked about and I was testing you about a recent podcast you'd been on, but one of the things
I'm like, what did I say?
Well, that's the thing. And I was looking for research last night for questions, and then I was like, okay, like Karley makes me up my game. I'll just be honest about Facebook. I was like, okay, you can ask generic questions about Facebook Lives, right, Karley?
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, well, this is kind of like, I know Karley, this is kind of more serious, and I wanted to. So I was doing research on you. So one of the things you
I
identified
appreciate that.
in Let's Talk HR, Humanizing the Conversation. That's the podcast.
Yep.
I don't have the lady's name. I was trying to find it on her Podbean website. You probably have it. You talked about the brand gap, and I think that's really crucial.
Yes.
Because for people like me,
Yep.
if you were to say what's a brand gap and you explained it, I'd be like, oh yeah, exactly right. But for people that watch my show or new clients that approach you, talk about that brand gap, because you made that really cool hand analogy or something that you talked about. So maybe,
oh yeah,
so
the hand analogy.
on video
Yeah,
we can do the hand thing, right?
Yeah, right. I love that.
Okay.
It's funny when you are often recording a podcast and you can see each other and it's being recorded, but then you forget that it's actually going to audio. So I've gotten used to just having what I'm doing with my so I call that
let's do crazy stuff with our hands,
It's actually it's kind of like the Grand is it the Grand Canyon gap, or is it the over Lynn Creek gap?
Right.
So can I best illustrate that with a story?
Yes, you can.
Awesome. So
do you need a screen share for the story?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'll just use my hands.
Okay.
So
that does work.
One of my business colleagues I used to share, he's also a strategic, know his brand and his company's brand really well. His name is Mike. And he won top 40 under 40 for business in Vancouver. This was years ago. Yeah. And that's a huge honor. It's really competitive.
Right.
And he was super excited when it came out. And he brings in the printed version of Business in Vancouver where his 2-page spread is. And he was super excited to share it with us. And I was like, dude, what have you done? He goes, what do you mean? Like, what have I done? What are you wearing? And he goes,
excuse me.
I'm wearing my 3-piece suit. He goes, I'm like, he's like, I thought, I'm like, you look flash. But here's the thing. Never wear a 3-piece suit when you're doing business. Like he is a stellar dresser, he just shows up. But the challenge I had with that is I said, here's my challenge with that. You have just created a brand gap. Now he had his downhill skis with him in the photo. So I was like, I love that. That is a part of you. It is a personal part of you. It helps tell the story visually. I said, but how you show up in the office is you always have really awesome different jeans on. You've often got a suit jacket on. He had one that had like paint splashes on the back, and there was an artist's, interpretation on the like artwork on his back. He has really funky shirts, and they're all, they all fit within that corporate, but they're always just on the edge of, hey, that's different, unique, you stand out. And then in the photo shoot, he had shown up in a very corporate, highfalutin suit. And I said, so the gap you've created is if people see this as you and they come to the company and then they walk into this very modern, funky office and you're in usual funky attire, it creates a disconnect in their minds. And they're like, oh, hold on. This isn't the guy I saw in the magazine. And people will tell themselves stories based on the things they read and especially the things they see. And so the key is really important. So when I talk about the brand gap, there's so many ways that can happen. Another way I often see it happen is with companies' values, especially startups, is they have these aspirational values of, on one side, what they're saying to the public world is these are what we stand for, and this is what guides us forward, and they're still learning to live them. So as the client meets them on this other side of the gap and they're walking along and they've been told this, and so they're confidently walking towards, they fall in the gap. And if the gap is really big and it's a Grand Canyon sized gap, for example, the company hasn't quite learned to live and deliver on their values or guiding principles, then the client falls down the gap. That's a huge risk to closing the client, maintaining their trust, moving them on to a next project because you promised this, but you didn't deliver, even though the work was good, something's feeling misaligned. And so the goal is always to close the gap or find a way to bridge it while you're closing the gap so the client doesn't fall in it and lose trust, you lose face, those types of things.
That's really
How'd that work?
interesting.
Yeah.
That worked great. I guess the only other question I would have, maybe to sort of like play devil's advocate, is do you think the appearance thing is really that important if it's not his brand to wear a three-piece suit and picture, and then like sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. So a picture of him in the suit, you know what I'm saying? Like that. I agree with you, but sometimes when I see like a picture is just a picture,
I'm rolling around what you're asking me in my head. Here's the piece that's important. I have really learned through the work that I do and just with humans, which we do every day, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're creating small disconnects along the way and you're not, and the consistency of delivery, whether that be visual delivery, whether it be project management delivery, whether it be final product delivery, if the consistency varies, it creates a breakdown in trust. Now, if you think about, as we build trust and we build relationship, it's like weaving strands into a rope together. But how many little strands threaded of broken trust does it take to break apart that rope or make someone doubt, oh, I don't know that this is stable or right for me anymore. So the more you can deliver consistency, the stronger your brand will be.
I think that's true of anything in marketing. I've talked about that even when I mentioned Marshall. Consistency is key, right? Like if you consistently show up for your clients, that's one thing, but consistently doing what you say you're going to do. And then your promise to your customers is to consistently say that you're going to do what you do. And if you don't, that you should fix it.
Yeah. And I mean,
that's the way I see it, right?
100%.
Okay.
And let's look at it from another angle is, Mike chose to dress the way he thought he was expected to dress, which meant he was conforming to the norm in
BC
business,
right?
Yeah. And I mean, I understand that it is it's a big thing, right?
So BC Business is, it's a business magazine.
Yeah. And that the human need to want to fit in is huge. But then we all spend so much time, energy, and money working on differentiating ourselves. Then all of a sudden you're stepping back into the norm again. So a picture of Mike, maybe with that fun jacket with the paint on the background with his skis, showing how different he is in appropriate business attire, could have hey, we're different. Yeah.
All right. So that was one question.
There you go. Welcome to Karley.
Well, no, it's actually a good discussion, right? I save these Facebook Lives as video and put them onto my YouTube channel so people can listen to the entire conversation. Like, I mean, that's the point, right? One of the other things that we talked a little bit about too, I know we mentioned that, is the same podcast. And I know it's going to quiz you a little bit. You talked about working with agents of change, disruptors, innovators, change makers, and those whose business purpose is to make the world a better place. You mentioned revising that to say those who do no harm. Have you made any progress on that revision? Because you're talking. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I think where that conversation was going is, it's super fun to work for me and for, I know, several others, is to work with innovators, disruptors, change makers, the people that are leading the charge forward and creating change. And for me, that's creating the change we need in the world, not just change for change's sake, because I see a way of making more money, or I see a way that this is going to amplify something, and so the do no harm piece was really a clarifier to what I believe in, and say have I made progress on that? It reminded me to be checking, is this something that I'm getting excited about because it's innovation, disruption, change, which resonate with me? And is it a company, if I think about the ripple effect of what they're doing, is it doing no harm? Because I've also observed humans, unfortunately, because we are, and especially those in first world countries, those in privileged situations, and in North America, we've be much about the individual, that we become siloed and insular focused to, is that going to benefit me? Great, I'm going to do it. Versus, if I do this thing, what is the ripple effect, and and does it cause any harm? And sometimes you have to go way down the chain to figure that out. Sometimes there's no way of seeing it before it happens. But an example, someone the other day, they were like, oh, what new car did you decide to go with? And I said, oh, we went with the Subaru Crosstrek because it checked all our boxes. I said, oh, but did you consider anything electric? Knowing that I also believe in innovation, disruption, and positive change. And I said, yes. However, my consideration was, one, price. What we're not going to be paying in gas, we're going to be paying an extra. And everybody goes, yeah, but there's an environmental impact. Yes. However, we out how to recycle lithium batteries yet. So right now they're just going in landfill, or they're sitting waiting to be transitioned into something that is recyclable. Also, lithium is a very dangerous process to mine. It's very toxic. It's very poisonous. You know, birds fly into lithium mining sites, they die. Bye-bye. So I have an ethical challenge with lithium, but the story the marketing world has put out there is this is a green solution. Well,
Interesting.
Sorry, a little bit of a downer. Bum, bum, bum.
Well, no, it's not meant to be a downer. Just like I said, we're searching for some questions.
Yeah. And
I've got a couple other ones too.
Fire away.
Yeah, because this has been really good discussion so far, and we've managed to okay, one sec here, because I just had a couple of things that we texted about last night. We talked about Casual Friday. We talked about the brand gap. You mentioned something.
Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
You talked about the former elite athlete, you're driven by results. If I'm not certain that BBB, meaning Big Bull Brand, can deliver at least 3 or 5 value points, I won't take the project. I had a more generic question, Karley. It was mainly around something like, what things are you looking for that indicate the client is a fit for you? That's more of a generic question, but perhaps you can elaborate based on both of those.
Yep. Client fit for us, values alignment. One of our, and I'll give you an example, one of our core values, always expressing gratitude. And if a client in the front end, or a prospect, not yet a client, in the front end of the sales process isn't demonstrating grace and gratitude, and thanking us for spending time with them in the sales process, I believe in delivering value and providing snippets of opportunities to get to know what it's like to work with us. So I'm putting skin in the game. I'm like, hey, I'll give you an example. The other day, a client has a really amazing project. Let me quit that so it doesn't ring and ding. Sorry about that. Yeah, that drives me crazy. I'm like, I just
on these all the time. No, it's okay.
It's like leaving your phone on in a
yeah, no, I know.
So there was a client with a project, and there was a possibility of misscoping it because it's a unique and custom project. And so I said, here's the thing, I can scope it and cost it, and one of us it can all work out, or one of us gets burned on, we charge you too much or we undercharge. So it's not a win-win situation. I said, tell you what, I will come and do, normally I would spend about another 60, 75 minutes with you. Why don't I come and spend in and around 2 hours with you and your team, and let's map out the high level of what we, of the client experience. And then let's talk about what you want to get out of this project, so it is a Goldilocks fit to you. And that client was very appreciative of that, and they thanked me for it. If they hadn't have, I'd be like, and this is a client who's going to take. Mrs. not willing to play. So I'm always looking for values alignment. I'm looking for folks that I think I'm going to have some fun working with, who have the ability to laugh at themselves. Another one of our values is create serious fun. And the definition of that is, what we do is serious work, but it doesn't mean we can't have fun in the process.
I agree completely.
Right? So that's a big one. And what else do we look for? People, if I know how do I feel this is going to go with the stakeholders, one or more, if something goes sideways? Do I feel like I can sit across them and still feel like we're making a team effort, or have a hard conversation without it going sideways or going wrong? Do I feel like we can work through it together? Is there a level of emotional maturity? Is there a level of professionalism?
Agreed.
Et cetera, et cetera. Like, do I get a sense that we can play through the hard stuff on this? Because sometimes the work we do goes deep, and sometimes it stirs up some things that nobody expects, and you're like, wow, now we got to deal with that. Okay, let's deal with it so we can, move it, resolve it, move it aside, move on. So I'm always looking for fit infinity up front. The simplest way to put it is, if I can't imagine having you at our Thanksgiving dinner table with my family, you will not be a client. If you fail to be a person that if I decide I would uninvite you, you will no longer be a client. Because, it's kind of the no asshole rule. Life is too short.
Yeah, no, I've had people tell me in my personal and professional life, my family or other people, that you shouldn't let this kind of stuff with clients like you're mentioning bother you, and you should work with them. And it just kind of also revalidates. And I don't expect perfection. Some of those things happened to me with past clients, and one of them, it was they just paid the bill late every month, right? And the attitude was, when I get paid, I'm a contractor. When another contractor pays me, I'll pay you. Yeah, no. Mm-hmm. When the bill's due, you pay it. Yeah. Here's the due date. If you're over the due date, you get charged interest, or after a couple of weeks, the service gets cut off.
Yeah. Right. And the other piece of it is, hey, if you have been paying regularly for a while and your business has a hiccup, call me. Let's talk about it. We're in this together, and let's talk about, give me the opportunity to say, hey, my cash flow is good. Like, can you make the payment? Can you commit to the payment in the next 15 to 30 days? Amazing. If not, can we break down the payments so that we are both winning here?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the beauty of business versus sport is, in essence, someone needs to win the game. In business, we can all win the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's true. And I think sometimes with sport, it's like, you're here to win. Okay. So if you can't do it in a sport, I guess you're out of luck. Right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm really flexible with clients, and I've made mistakes, but I'm glad you sort of view it the way I do too. So we align pretty well, because I was like, I have no problem being flexible with a client, but sometimes I'm like, guys, like, this has been going on for a year, like this kind of stuff. That's it. Or, like, it's just.
That tells me that one of your values, the core of the value, however you say it, is respect.
Yeah.
Respect the effort I put in, and show that respect by paying your bills on time.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, what I'm going to do then is going to wrap it up and say thank you, even though we're at around 25 minutes.
Nice.
So thank you for all this information and insight.
My pleasure.
And we will talk to everyone soon, and then I'll upload this to my YouTube channel, Karley, and I'll send you a little blurb with some links and things you can use for social media posts.
Sounds awesome, Ben. Always a pleasure to be in the same room with you.
And same to you. Thanks, Karley.
Cheers. Happy Friday.